Saturday mornings at Brew Haven were never quiet, but this one felt especially packed. Steam hissed from the espresso machine while a line stretched almost to the door. Emma adjusted her apron and glanced at the crowd, already sensing the tension that came with long waits and short patience. Near the back of the line stood a tall man in a gray blazer, checking his watch every few seconds. His name was Ryan, and impatience clung to him like a shadow. When he noticed an opening near the counter, he stepped forward casually, as if he had always been there. A woman holding a stroller blinked in surprise. "Excuse me," she said softly, but Ryan didn't turn. He placed his hand on the counter and began listing his order, speaking quickly, confidently, as though the line behind him didn't exist. Emma didn't interrupt him immediately. That was the mistake new staff used to make, reacting emotionally. Instead, she finished handing a latte to the previous customer and gave Ryan a calm, measured look. Brew Haven had dealt with this kind of behavior before. Just last month, a similar situation had ended in raised voices and an online complaint. Since then, the cafe owner had created a simple rule: no one gets served without a visible order number. Emma reached beneath the counter and quietly slid something toward Ryan. Not a cup, not a receipt, but a small laminated sign that read, "Please join the line. We'll be happy to serve you." For a second, Ryan just stared at the laminated sign. The chatter behind him didn't stop, but it shifted, softer now, curious. He gave a short laugh, the kind people use when they expect others to laugh with them. No one did. Emma didn't smile. She simply waited. "I'm in a hurry," Ryan said, lowering his voice as if that made the rule flexible. "It'll take 2 minutes," Emma nodded politely. "It takes everyone 2 minutes," she replied, just loud enough for the line to hear. A few heads lifted. The woman with the stroller straightened her shoulders. Ryan glanced around, suddenly aware that he had an audience. A college student near the door held up a small paper slip, the cafe's new numbered ticket. Others followed almost instinctively. What had looked like an unorganized crowd now looked structured, prepared. Emma reached for the small digital screen mounted beside the register. With a soft beep, the next number flashed. A 47. A man near the front stepped forward smoothly. No chaos, no hesitation, just quiet order. Ryan noticed something then. No one behind the counter looked flustered. He leaned slightly closer to Emma. "You're really going to make a scene over coffee?" he asked. Emma met his eyes, calm and steady. "No," she said gently. "We're trying to prevent one." And in that moment, Ryan realized something unsettling. This wasn't tea, the first time they de-handled someone exactly like him. A faint murmur rolled through the cafe, not loud enough to be confrontational, but clear enough to shift the air. Ryan straightened his blazer, suddenly more aware of how many eyes were on him. He wasn't used to being the person everyone quietly observed. Emma didn't rush him. That was part of the training now. No arguments, no raised voices, just patience and policy. She pressed a small button beneath the register, and the screen above the counter briefly displayed a simple message. "Thank you for respecting the line." It wasn't directed at him, but it felt personal. A man near the middle of the queue spoke up gently. "We've all been waiting," he said, not angrily, just stating a fact. The tone wasn't hostile, it was collective, and somehow that was heavier than one person complaining. Ryan opened his mouth as if to argue, then stopped. He noticed something new, a small framed sign near the pastry case that hadn't been there before, "Fair service for every guest." It looked recent, intentional. This place had clearly adjusted after past incidents. For the first time since stepping forward, Ryan hesitated. Not because someone forced him back, but because the room had quietly chosen its side. Emma didn't need to say another word. The system was already working. Ryan exhaled slowly, the confidence he walked in with thinning just a little. Without another word, he stepped back from the counter. The movement was small, but noticeable. The line parted just enough for him to rejoin it, not at the front, but where he had originally stood. No one clapped, no one smirked. That almost made it heavier. The cafe returned to its rhythm, milk steaming, numbers calling, quiet conversations resuming. But something had shifted. The tension that had been building didn't explode. It dissolved. Emma called out the next number, her tone steady as ever. When she glanced up again, Ryan wasn't looking at his watch anymore. He was watching the process, the tickets, the smooth flow, the fairness of it all. For the first time, he seemed less irritated and more thoughtful. A few minutes later, when his number finally appeared on the screen, he stepped forward, this time without trying to rush. "Flat white," he said, quieter than before. Emma nodded and entered it without comment. There was no triumph in her expression, only professionalism. As she handed him the cup, their eyes met again. Ryan hesitated for a second, then said, almost reluctantly, "You run this place well." It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't the same tone he had used earlier either, and Emma could tell. This wasn't the outcome he expected when he walked in. Ryan turned, coffee in hand, and for the first time really looked around the cafe. The other customers weren't laughing or whispering. They were calm, waiting their turn, sharing small smiles with one another. The energy was peaceful, orderly, and entirely unexpected. A woman behind him whispered to her friend. That barista handled it perfectly. Her friend nodded, eyes following Emma as she moved back to the counter, ready for the next order. Ryan felt something unfamiliar. Respect, or maybe the weight of humility. He glanced at Emma again. She smiled slightly, not mocking, just acknowledging that the situation was over. It wasn't a victory for her, or a humiliation for him. It was simply a moment handled correctly, and he realized the subtle power of that calm authority. As he sipped his coffee, Ryan's phone buzzed with messages from colleagues. He almost ignored them, but the quiet from earlier stuck in his mind. He realized that respect wasn't demanded by force. It was earned by action, by consistency, by being prepared for what everyone else tried to rush past. When Ryan finally left the cafe, the morning rush continued as if nothing had happened. Yet, for everyone who had witnessed it, the lesson lingered. Sometimes the quietest, most prepared person shapes the room, and Emma's. She simply moved on to the next customer, ready for the next challenge, proving once again that patience and calm can turn even the most impatient day around.